Welcome back to the Be Ruthless Show. I'm your host, Sam Ruth, and joining me today is Dallas here and my guest, Danielle Booher, who is an author, speaker, mom, nurse, podcast host, and life coach. She's had a passion for helping others since she was a child. Spreading love and kindness is very important to Danielle. She loves to make people laugh and smile, and mental health awareness is also a passion of hers. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Hello there.
Those in
Hi.
my world know Dallas is a little clingy right now because Sassy's at the doctor. So thank you for all having pet friendly attitudes today.
Yeah, of course, so cute.
What I couldn't tell if we were live. My computer is saying things.
It
So
says yes,
it says
53
yes.
seconds.
So we are going to tell everyone a little bit more about what you do, why you do it.
Yeah. So I do a lot, but um so how much do you want me to go into detail of like why I became or you tell
Yeah,
me.
how'd you get into this? You've been nursing for a while, but deciding to
Yeah.
write a book and do life coaching
Mhm.
happened.
Yeah. So, okay, well, we'll just go right into it. So, almost 14 years ago, actually, July 25th makes 14 years. I was a single mom of two kids and working two jobs and going to school. And so, one morning, I get a phone call, and my phone's always on silent because I was always somewhere. And then I woke up to go to the bathroom for some reason at 5 something in the morning and checked my phone, and my mom called me. So basically, I called her back, and my brother, not to give too much details, I ended up witnessing my brother commit suicide on the phone, and my mom was there, unfortunately. And so uh, at that moment, I was very much in denial, like super denial. I mean, I didn't like, I thought everything was going to be fine. And I was in Ohio, they were in Maryland. And so I talked to like the paramedics for her because, of course, she was traumatized, of course. And just all this stuff. And I was by myself. I accidentally woke up my oldest son because I screamed when I heard the shot. Like, I just screamed and dropped the phone. And then I have a sister that's my dad's and not my mom's. So she lived in West Virginia, which was really close to me. She came over and we ended up going to Maryland. So that day really changed a lot of things in my life. And I wanted to quit school. And at that time, I was only in prerequisites. And so everybody was like, you can't do that. Like, don't. Because I wanted my boys to have a better life. I was like a waitress and a manager, some and all this stuff, but I was barely scraping by. So I kept going and I was like two different lives. And then fast forward um, many years later, I was turning 40 a couple years ago. And um I my boyfriend now was like, "Hey, you've always wanted to do this." So I started comedy. I did stand-up comedy. And then I was like, "Oh, I want to do a podcast and stuff like that." So kind of just I went on a healing like forgiveness journey and became a certified life coach. And then fast forward again, there's a lot more details, of course. And then I ended up writing a book in honor of my brother and to help people bring awareness to his diagnosis, which he had severe OCD. So kind of that's like the fastest way I can kind of explain everything. But it all once I started healing and stuff, I was like, I have to help other people. And I'm grateful um that I did that, but I had to be in the right place first. So
Thank you so much for sharing. This is not talked about, right? Grief is not talked about, but suicide is talked about less. The
mhm.
stigmas. So bringing it up in a children's book in a way that we need to have these conversations. You mentioned forgiveness.
Yeah. So
A lot of people. That's a big hurdle for many in the healing journey.
yeah, so I had to forgive myself too. And not only just for that situation, I was a young mom. I was at 18, I had my first kid. So by 20, I had 2 kids, and I didn't do everything right. I did a lot of things amazing. I really did for a young person, but I didn't do everything right. And so I had to forgive myself for that. And I also forgave myself for there's nothing I could have done. So, like, I was very guilty. My mom basically essentially called me to calm him down, and I thought it was my job to save him, which it always was my job to save him. We were 1 year apart, and I in high school, uh it was so funny because my first name is Kristen, and I do not ever go by Kristen. And so the first time I ever got called into the office, they said Kristen, and my whole class in high school goes, ooh, like like elementary school. And it was because of my brother. And so I became, my parents got separated and divorced. My dad was in the military, and so he couldn't leave. He had a really cool job, but he wasn't allowed to take his cell phone in for certain reasons. And so it was me. And so I literally became his second mom, and that was my job. And so I had to forgive myself because all the other times he was having issues or whatever, um, I felt like I could help, but that time, but I do want to say, um, when it comes to suicide, I have a perspective that people don't have. Um, and unfortunately, if there are people I've spoke to that have witnessed it in other ways, physically, which my mom went through, I can't imagine. And then like on the phone or on a video chat or whatever. And when it comes to that, I want you to know that, like, my brother was not in his right mind. Literally, he kept repeating the same things over and over again. He didn't understand what was going on. He wasn't responding to when my mom was like, "Hey, your sister's on the phone." Like, he was just saying, like, it was like literally how I could explain it is like he wasn't there, but he was there. So if your loved one or family member or kid or whatever, anybody your friend, whoever has committed suicide, please know that that doesn't mean that they weren't loved or didn't feel like they were. They could have been struggling, and then at that moment, that was like maybe a psychotic break for them, and that's the only thing that they could have thought of. And honestly, like I, it's again, July 25th will be 14 years, but never was there people would ask me answers like why, like how do I know why? I'm not in his mind, but I know that he struggled with a lot of stuff for a long time. So please be there for people, especially men. That's really important to me, because he fought, like, okay, so this was back in the, so it was 2010, but like back in the 90s and earlier 2000s, like it wasn't cool for people to talk about their feelings as much as it is accepting now. It wasn't back then. And so he thought, like, just keep it all in. So there's lots of warning signs, but we don't have to get into that. But just please know that if somebody reaches out to you and like a little bit more than normal, or they just don't seem right, please delve into it. Be there for them, support them, just listen to them, because you can save their life and not even know. There's so many times that I've talked to people and I've got goosebumps, and they're like, I called so and so, and they don't know that they saved my life that day. Being nice to somebody in the store, that could save somebody's life. You don't understand. I'm trying not to cry because I look like a mess when I cry. But just be kind and be like available. I know we all are busy, but check in on people every once in a while and just be like, hey, how you doing? I haven't heard from you. I want you to know I love you and all that stuff. That opens up the door, because when somebody's depressed or anxious or has different mental health diagnosis, they're not just willy-nilly like, oh, let me just tell everybody about my feelings. They don't want to do that. But if you let them know that you love them and you're available, then that might give them like a little bit of leeway to say, oh, okay, that's a safe person for me. Okay, that was a long answer. I'm sorry.
I want to add to that. Thank you for that. It's
Uh-huh.
also, okay to say, I don't know what to say,
Mhm.
to ask for a professional to help, to trust your instincts. We live in this world that kind of laughs things off or takes them seriously. And there's a lot of space in between there. And so remember that the people who are hurting, healing, didn't do anything wrong. They've lost someone. And so these are uncomfortable conversations, but being there for them, not being there for them is another loss when, it's not our burden. It shouldn't be our burden to have to explain all of this, but it is. So just sticking by them is huge.
Right. One other thing about forgiveness is that a lot of people don't want to do it because they were hurt, or there are some like very traumatic things that you're like, how could you forgive somebody for that? But it's not that you're saying it's okay. Forgiveness is not saying that's acceptable what you did. What it's saying is that I'm not going to let it burden me anymore. So then the weight of that the on your shoulders is lifted, and then you can move on. Um because what happens is when you're so focused on whatever it was, and there are some horrible things that happen to people, and I'm not saying that it's okay that that happened. But once you forgive that person, and you don't ever forget, but once you let it not be in your mind 24/7, and you let that stronghold go, you actually have control of the situation. Like, you can control yourself and your emotions at that point pertaining to that. And it's harder when you're around the person. Believe me, I understand. It's harder when it's your parent or somebody, or like, or somebody you have to see. But and also setting boundaries is important, even in healing and everything, but that's another story. But yeah, with forgiveness, it's not saying like, oh yeah, it's okay that you did XYZ to me, but just saying like, I'm not going to let it control me anymore in my emotions. And I felt so much better when I did that. I was in abusive relationships, like all kinds of stuff. And forgiving like made me feel like 200 times better.
And it's not about doing it for the other person.
Right, it's
It's
for
about,
you.
it's a gift for you. You don't even have to tell another person in some situations. It's letting go of that hold that it has over you. Um, so it
Mhm.
really, if we take that out of it and say, this person isn't part of it, this is just about me and how I get through this. People don't talk enough about all the guilt, all the unanswered questions. I didn't just go get a second opinion. I got a third, fourth, and fifth after I lost Jim. Like
Mhm.
our mind goes places, and we just need people to stick by. So the other thing you talked about that is not talked about enough and misunderstood is OCD. I think the common stereotype is somebody really organized and anal and particular, and a lot of people live that way, and an actual OCD diagnosis is much more than that.
Right. Do you want me to talk about it for
Yeah,
Sure.
the battles that no one saw that he dealt with.
Yeah, so that is difficult. But I could talk about anything. But so yeah, so our rooms were a wall apart, and it was very, very severe for him. And basically he had a ritual that he did, and it took him an hour and a half to leave the house every single time. If it got interrupted, he would start over. So it got to the point where when he was older, his friends would tell him, hey, we're leaving at 3, but they really wanted to leave like at 4 or 5, because it would take him that long. But also, what was upsetting was that they would think it was funny. So he would be in the shower and they would move something literally a quarter of an inch, and he would come out and attack. Like, he would attack me actually. I was his safe person to like mess with, I guess. And it was okay. I mean, I was always fine. I didn't really get hurt, but he would like tackle me, and he would be so mad knowing it was not me, But they would move stuff and they thought it was funny because he would know. I mean, it was the smallest little thing and he would know. Um, but so that was like his main like thing that you could see. But also he had safety, like very much safety. He was like scared of a lot of things that nobody really knew. And then when I started writing my book, I was like, holy moly. Then I thought about certain things. Um, but it was sad. I became the opposite, which I'm never proud of. Like my room looked like a tornado went off, and his everything was so neat and it would drive him crazy. But then I found out that I have ADHD. I didn't know until like a few months ago, maybe. And then I was like, holy moly, that makes sense. But the polar opposites together made for some fun times. But yeah, so his was a lot with cleaning, but also safety. And in my book, there is, so this is a fiction book because he didn't get any help. My character gets a lot of help. And my son got this help for a different diagnosis. So my character gets occupational therapy, an IEP at school, and goes to the therapist and all this stuff. But in my book, there is a death, and everybody's like, why did you do that? And I did it because the ending shows progress and is so wonderful for kids to see the ending. That's why there is a death. But when it comes to the character acted like my brother. Anytime somebody died, my brother would like get so mad and like fight everybody and threaten. He didn't know how to express his feelings. And a lot of men do show their feelings through anger or like joking. My brother was always joking. And so when it came with like his OCD, that his hands were purple. He would scrub his hands so much that they were purple. And it was a real thing. Never did I ever think that, because people joke and say, oh, you have OCD, like you said, if somebody's anal or something. He really was struggling 24/7 in his mind. And I really wish that he would have gotten help. Um, he probably didn't even know how to ask for help. My parents did try to suggest stuff, but at that point he was so much older that it was like, you're not going to drag a big old guy to the doctor. But yeah, so his was just a struggle, and it was hard to see, and he hated change. One other thing is that he couldn't control things. So we got to live in Germany 2 times. I thought it was the best time ever. Like, loved it. I was on the welcoming committee. I had a blast. I was so happy. And he was miserable. And he struggled. He struggled with so many things. He struggled with learning different things, but not that he was slower. He just like, he kind of fought the change. He's like, and so yeah, so like in Germany, I wrote this in the book, but he says, he was so little. I think it was like 4 or 5, maybe 5. And he said, I don't understand a damn word that they're saying. And my parents couldn't even get mad at him because he was right. He could not understand a damn word that they were saying. So it was just funny stuff like that I did include in the book. But he really struggled with so many things. But he was so talented and funny and amazing. And he had so many friends because he was a blast to be around. And so everybody kind of just like, kind of went around all of his, compulsions and all those things. We just kind of just adapted to them, which there's other ways to do that now that, I looked into it and stuff. And I'm not a professional. You are. I am not a mental health professional. And I write that in my book several times. I got all of my diagnosis information and all that from, I don't think I got it from the DSM-5, but basically it is from that. But I got it all from professional books, and they are sourced, whatever, recited or whatever it's called in there. So if you want to find out the information that I got, it's in there. Also, I put coping skills, different techniques and stuff for caregivers, loved ones, and for the person that's has OCD, because you can get help, and there's so many different things that you can do, and and we all go through stuff. So please don't be ashamed to talk about it. But we want you to like live happy lives and thrive. So yeah.
Life is hard enough,
Mhm.
and we have crutches for physical injuries, and the world does not understand emotional crutches.
Mhm.
There's so many people, whether it's because of their career or because of applying for something, that they don't get help because they don't want it on any records, right?
Mhm.
And what you are battling in your mind, that some people minimize and laugh at, we understand and want more people to be able to say, I don't have to live this way. It doesn't have to be this difficult all day, every day. Doesn't change reality, but it helps us through it. So this is one where people really struggle. It impacts relationships, it impacts career.
Mhm.
Not everybody will adjust their time like his friends did, which is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have friends that are nurses, and well, I'm a nurse, and they have OCD. And also like being aware of stuff and having like a safe person, because I have been through that with my brother. I can tell when my friend's getting overwhelmed. Unfortunately, I switched departments, so now I don't see her that much. She brings patients to me every once in a while, but I used to be, in the same area. I used to work in the recovery room. Now I do discharges. But when I saw that she was getting overwhelmed, she did a great job. Like, first of all, I want to say I'm so proud of everyone that has a mental health diagnosis and goes and is so productive. And even though you might be struggling in your mind to like fight the urges of things, but I'm so proud of you, because like even with ADD, it's like time management is so challenging for me, but as a nurse I have to do it. I don't have a choice, especially when I was like trying to save lives. So in the recovery room, it's trauma. We're a trauma one center, and so like I have stroke patients, all these things, like accidents, all kinds of trauma and stuff. And so I can't be all over the place in my mind. I have to do things literally to save their life, like the triage. Like I have to, like, so it's like, what's the most important thing right now? Oh, heart rate's 140, this is that, da 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 da. What do I do? Okay, so then you have to think, okay, with like fluids, everybody's like, what are you talking about? But like, so there's certain things you can do, but then like if their blood pressure is low, you can give them fluids. But if they have this diagnosis, you can't, right? So you can't be like all over the place. So it actually helps me focus. But with my friend, like with her OCD, um, she cleans everything first, which lots of people do, no problem. But then when stuff starts to get a certain way, she has to like get herself together, and has a way to kind of get it structured. Some days it doesn't work, but when I would see that, if like one day we literally had a trauma and the patient left and everything was everywhere. I'm talking about everywhere. And she was like, and I said, what do you need me to do? Like, what are we going to do? Tell me. But she cleans way better than me, just saying. So I'm like, tell me what you need me to do. I'm going to help you. Because that's sometimes people don't understand that that's how it gets. Like, even with me, I don't know where to start things sometimes, because like everything is so like literally like that's what it is in my mind. And so I have to literally like, and sometimes I get outside help. Like if my friend is by me with OCD, okay, where would you start? I ask her. I don't care. I got no shame in my game. Or she might ask me, hey, what's this? Whatever. And so it's helpful. But yeah, on a job, it is very difficult, because like, especially if you're taking care of people, or like in your instance, you're even as a coach, like it helps me. Like I focus so much because I care and I'm passionate. So I literally pay attention to what my client is saying or whatever, and then I take notes. do stuff that helps you, right? So I take notes because in case I forget in 5 seconds, it's written right beside me, so you kind of learn like how to turn it into a superpower because you have to, right, to survive and to thrive, and whatever your job is, you can do it, and you can like be great at it. You just have to find little things that help you function better and all that stuff. So regardless of what the diagnosis is, but yeah, so with OCD though, my brother struggled with that when he had jobs because but he was a young guy. He was like in his 20s and he was just struggling anyways. But it's possible. Everybody can do it. You just got to get and so also what helps me, I go in the bathroom if you can. I go to a place by myself and count backwards. I breathe. Whatever I feel. If I feel like it's too much for me, I if it's safe to get away, I take a 5-second break. I get myself together. I breathe and I count backwards and I'm like, okay. And then I go back. It's okay to excuse yourself unless depending on what your job is, but get your base, make sure you're right as well. So you can do.
So important, especially talking about who you tell, right? There are so many people who are embarrassed and keep a diagnosis a secret when that prevents you from finding a friend who says, what can I do? How do I help? The people who get it, they know. They see what the rest of the world doesn't see. We find them by sharing. You don't have to go on a podcast and spill your guts like this, but you can find the people who seem safe enough to say, like, clutter overwhelms me. You don't even have to say a diagnosis, but that opens the door. And first of all, you're not the only one. Someone else around you will have something. But to me, it's all data. I tell people about my anxiety, not because I want sympathy, not because it's all about me, but it gives them information about how to interact with me.
Right. That's awesome. And that's helpful. And again, you can't trust everybody, right? Unfortunately, in the world. So there are some people like super judgmental people, and that's okay. I actually just went to a concert last night, and I was so worried about my size for a while. Well, I've always been back and forth with my size, but what I did last night, which I started to do the last couple years since I went on this journey of forgiveness and becoming a life coach and all that stuff, was I had fun, right? And so I live in the Atlanta area and I absolutely love it. And so some places I go, I'm the only white person, and that's cool. I'm actually comfortable. That's fine. My kids are biracial. Like I grew up with a lot of different ethnicities. My dad was in the military. So I love it. Like doesn't matter what the group is. I just feel like I can adapt. But years ago, I would worry about, oh, people are staring at me. I do not care. I sang all the words that I knew. I danced. I stood up. I don't have a very good voice right now. I have a headache. But yes, and I had a blast. And I did mention a couple times because this one lady was staring at me. I don't care. The thing is, like, I'm there and I won the ticket. So that's really nice. And I'm very thankful. But even if I didn't and I spent the same amount of money, who cares? I learned like now then once I found out that like not that this is all about me, but like with the ADD thing, I was like, holy moly, that makes sense because everybody told me my whole life, you're weird, you're this, you're that. And then when I figured out like, oh, okay, my brain is different. And guess what? Now I've tried so many different things. I know to help me focus now, what to do and all this stuff. And it helped me. And I'm so much happier because it like makes sense and it clicked. And I was like, oh, okay. But guess what? I'm confident. Like you can think whatever. I am happy. I had so much fun. And that's the memory that I am going to have, right? Is that, and in honesty, it reminded me of like when my brother and I were young, because it was 90s songs. And so I was like, oh, and it gave me good times and I felt great. So why not? Right. And so once you figure out what it is and you have like a safe person and you have somebody to like, say like, wow, like I really, and again, you get a professional too. But like if you have that friend and you guys understand and you're like, I really had a rough day, like, and then like, oh wow, me too. Or what happened or whatever. And then you just like be okay with, you get help, but I'm just saying like there's so many things you can work on, but if you just keep denying that, oh, there's nothing going on, then you're not going to be able to thrive. And like with anxiety, right? If you just keep denying that you have anxiety, how are you going to function? It's really, I mean, I do
Right.
know
We
it.
started this episode with me saying to you, I am expecting a note from like I'm waiting to hear from the vet. Sassy is literally in
Yeah.
her scans now. So
Did you
I'm
get
sharing that she's awake from CT and did great under anesthesia, right? Like I needed that. I said my mind is in two places. You said you should have rescheduled, right? But
that?
everybody might say, okay, you look a mess today. But if those who don't know wouldn't know what I'm going through internally, and I literally like feel like 100 pounds just came off of my shoulders, right? Like all I wanted to know, right? You're a
Yeah, I'm
nurse.
so
All I
glad.
wanted to
Yeah,
know
I'm so
is
glad she's okay.
okay. So that also, yes, people might judge, but it brings you to the people who don't.
Right.
I was talking to my dad this morning about, some people told me this test isn't required. It's not cheap either.
I bet I can imagine. Oh my
Right?
goodness. Yeah.
But this is on her neck. It gives them a better view.
Mm.
And I don't want I don't want a problem, right? But there were people in my world who said, don't do it. And that we live in a world that finances are a part of the decisions that we make.
Mhm.
But not having her is like not an option, right? So putting a 12-year-old dog, I think this is real life. We all go through something. So one of you has somebody in surgery today going through something. And if you act like you're fine at work for the people around you, instead of just saying, I'm waiting for one message, how much more do you suffer?
Yeah. It's like it's human nature to like, well, we are told sometimes as kids, suck it up, don't do this, and that's not okay. That actually causes trauma down the line. And then you're like, I don't know, like, who do I trust? What do I do? Like, I don't know how to like release this. Am I allowed to say, and that's, I don't know. I'm not trying to, but it's not right because like saying like, first of all, we never know what somebody's going through. And to the fact that you said that, because you don't know that I saw your post, but the fact that you told me that, I was not judging you, by the way, but say I was somebody like, and I was like, oh, what? I don't care what you look like. I always look like whatever. I look more decent today usually than normal, but yeah, but then like people might say, oh, well, blah, 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 blah. Who, I can't say who cares. People do care, but your dog is your child and you have every right to do whatever test or whatever thing you want for your baby. That's it. Right? And what you've gone through, like that's, to me that's kind of insensitive, but that's okay. I'm sorry. But what you've gone through already would make me like trigger a thing of, wow, that would be, like, I don't want to say it, but because she's gonna be
Right.
okay. But
Right.
like,
That's
yeah,
true.
do
I mean, she went through
everything.
losing Jim with me, right? Like she's
Yes, like that is your baby with your like that's your family. So like eh, so many people have opinions, okay? And sometimes in your circle, I think it was like a psychiatrist or somebody said this on one of the videos. So many people in your circle will have all these opinions, right? But they wouldn't do the same thing, or they don't know what you're going through. They've never gone through it. And they'll say, because at first I did grief and trauma coaching, and I still have some clients of that, but I'm transitioning to something else. But everybody has their own journey, right? And so people can't tell you, oh, it's been too long. You don't let it, like, no, nobody knows the connection you have with a person that you lost. Nobody can tell you what's best. Now, I'm not saying staying in your house and not talking to anybody for months is okay. That's not helpful, right? But I wouldn't tell somebody, hey, there's no right way to grieve or heal. There's a million things that you can do. But also, I want to say something, and it's your show, but earlier you said something that was really important about people like will literally shut you off because they don't know what to say. And like you said, that's like another loss. And that's not therapeutic, and that's not helpful, because now we're more isolated and we're like, well, what the heck? Like, what did I do to you? And especially when it came to suicide, like that word is like, like no. And with the forgiveness thing too, it's like I I was mad because he has a daughter. But I wasn't mad at that way of how his life was. What I was like mad at is that like I was like mad at a lot of things, but then I was like, you know what? Everybody, like, who am I? I'm not judging him. I love him so much. And he wasn't in his right mind. So it people just like the opinions is, I'll tell you, people in my circle, um, with like there was a lot of supportive people when I write a book because of how I am. You see how I jump, jump, jump. Sorry. You're gonna write a book, man. No. I can't believe you wrote a book. Whoa. Like they want you, like some people are like, I don't want to say they want you to fail, but it's like they just expect you to. So guess what? Outshine and do what you got to do, and just keep on moving. But in your thing though, Sam, yeah, that's your baby. So I'm proud of you. Do all the tests that you can afford. Of course, don't like give up your house for for a test. That would be a lot. But no, but yeah, do everything you got to do, because um and you don't want her to suffer, and then that's not right. And so I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for doing what's right. We have to advocate for our family and our loved ones, regardless of what the situation is. And that's important in nursing as well. My main job is to be an advocate for the patient. And well, and also in your profession too. But like even, that's what we're supposed to do. So good job.
So going
I'm glad
back
she's
to
okay.
your brother didn't get help. Thank you.
Yeah.
How do we help people who don't believe in certain types of help? Like, what do we do when we know, so it's 2024 and we've come a long way, but that we still have many, many stigmas and people who resist support that's available. So if you are a friend or family member, we don't have to go into all the warning signs, but what would you suggest to people back away?
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say, like, how can we be there for people struggling, who don't even really recognize that they're struggling?
Yeah. So something I said earlier is like checking in. There's certain ways you can word things that aren't overwhelming. So I learned that if you say, and I'm guilty of, sometimes I word it that way and I'm like, whoop, let me change it. If you say like, how are you feeling? And the person's feeling like 600 things, that's too much to answer. I don't know what to say right now. Right. So you can word things a different way, or um, invite them to stuff. If you notice, like say for instance, I had kids young, so didn't really get to do this, but lots of people have friend groups. They might meet up, like every Monday or like for coffee or whatever. And now the person's backing out of it, or they're having all these excuses. Say, can I come to you? Like, maybe you have a lot going on. Can I come hang out with you? Is that okay? Or whatever. And then just let them know that you're there. And it's harder with men because, again, you don't know how, like, they don't, and that's also females, anybody, but lots of men that I've met or been in my life don't know how to communicate their feelings. So what I found is helpful is if people write it down. Write it down. Dump a whole bunch of words. Sometimes you don't have to show it to anybody either, but like, if you can't explain how you feel, like even to yourself, just dump everything. Okay? So like it's important too, like if you feel any physical symptoms, and like I do this with people with like anxiety or other things, but like or triggers. That was one thing that I worked on with people that were healing or had PTSD or whatever, like I did, like what identifying your triggers, but what physical symptoms does it make you feel? So like if you don't know how to word it, think about that and then you can word it. Like just write down everything. Okay, so like when I took a test, okay, I had such bad anxiety that I would have panic attacks during my nursing test. Not very helpful. So, okay, when I take a test, I can't breathe. My heart rate races. I sweat. I this, right? And so you can write all that stuff down. And then when you're ready to like tell someone, even if it's a professional or a friend, just be like, wow, like lately when I do such and such, this is how I feel. Even if you can't explain anything, like then the person goes, oh, wow, something's going on. Right. And so I think like if you have a loved one that's been withdrawn or isolating, that's a sign something's going on, depression, something, and just try to be there for them and just say, hey, are you hungry or whatever? Because sometimes we forget to eat. Okay. Like if you're in, like if you have anxiety, depression, or some diagnosis, even ADHD, it's like a joke with it, is that sometimes you forget to eat and you're like, it's 4:00. Did I eat today? I don't even know. And I've done that before. But yeah, so just say like, hey, I'm hungry. Are you hungry? And like try to like make it to like, it's like, I don't want to say trick someone, but like
Not focused on the problem.
yeah, like okay, well, let's I saw this, say you and your friend like trains. I don't know, I just made this up. I saw this really cool like train the other day. I thought that you might like to see it. Do you feel like going with me or whatever? And try to like get them to do things, or like if they love coffee, try to invite them and see if that kind of stuff works. And there's no clear cut answer and everybody's different, but just letting someone know that you're there and you love them instead of the opposite. I don't know what to say. Like you said, say, I don't know what to say right now. I noticed that, you haven't answered my text back. Is there anything you would like to talk about or whatever? Just something. Just open up the conversation. Um and just say like, I'm here for you. I might not have the right words right now, but I'm here for you and I would love to listen. And just let them know, because it is hard. But I was the most extroverted person and literally shut myself in. Other than taking care of my kids and doing that, I became a total different person. And instead of shaming, like I lost a baby at 25 weeks stillborn at the restaurant I was working at, but I lost the baby in the ambulance, but I started to miscarry in the restaurant. And when I came back, they treated me horrible. Oh, you're acting weird. What's wrong with you? You used to be this, and that. Well, hello. kind of just went through something. And so that was not helpful to me, to treat me like I was some kind of alien. Instead of like letting me grieve. I was supposed to be gone 7 days of work. I went back after 4 days, and they treated me like, "Meh, you're fine." And all meanwhile, people are asking me, "Hey, how's the baby?" Because I still look pregnant. Because you know, I gave I gave birth to a 1.5 pound baby that was stillborn, and I still look pregnant. And so now I'm a restaurant manager, and I start crying at a table like a goofball because I don't have a baby in me anymore, And instead of like being supportive, and I was young, I was in my 20s, I was like shunned. That's not okay. And so you might not know what to say, but don't say that kind of stuff. Well, what's wrong with you? Well, what do you think? Like, so I don't know. There's no right
I
answer,
love
but
that you mentioned changing, adjusting, because people, we are who we are, and we've done all these things with people. And so there are some people who just invite us to the things that we've always done, not knowing I couldn't do those things either. I completely changed. I didn't want to be away from Sassy, who was also grieving.
yeah,
Crowds of happy people made me feel worse. But the people who said, "What do you want to do instead?" Those were the people who, can we sit and do nothing? Can we go anywhere dogs are allowed? Right? Like those are the people,
yeah,
that's all it took. And it's human nature. You're not doing anything wrong by inviting people to the things they've always done. But recognize that they just went through something so major, those things they might take a while.
yeah. It is, and it's tough. And again, society like expects us to just like snap and da-da. But when you lose someone, or there's lots of different grief. And I've been divorced, and my bonus son, that's hard for me to talk about. He just graduated high school, and I raised him for 7 years, and I wasn't there. And it's like I kind of got erased from some stuff, and that's hard. And it's not him. It's not him. But that's still my baby. He will always be my baby. So that was hard. Like I lost my businesses, separated my family. I had 4 kids that I was raising, and then I only could take 3 legally, the ones that I birthed. And so people don't get that. Like there's so many different types of grieving. And so you have to do a new normal. And also, if you did lose someone, like as in pass away, recognize them in a way, honor them. Like you don't have to write a book, but plant a tree, start a scholarship fund in their name. If they were like an avid reader, do something at the library. There's like so many things that you can do to keep their legacy going. And it might be hard at first, so you might need a couple years to even like heal. But I know that it's something that somebody asked me actually on another podcast, did I do anything for the baby that I lost? No, I just kept going. And then you don't understand sometimes that stuff like comes up, and you're like, oh wow. And then being a nurse, I'm very empathetic though. So that all the things that I have been through helps me when there is a young lady that's there because she has to have a DNC because she lost a baby. Or there is someone that, even when I worked in the ICU and somebody attempted to take their own life before COVID, way before COVID, I would sit on the end of their bed. And again, not a mental health professional, but I'm a human. And I would say, hey, what's going on in your life? Like, do you have any support? Do you have any of this? And I would talk to them. And people appreciated it so much because some people would treat them like they have the plague and, oh, you're this and that. No, even when people overdosed, once they were, out of withdrawals and stuff and couldn't actually focus on what I'm saying, what's going on with you? Da 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 da. And I can tell you one time I lived in a small tiny town, and this lady came up to me. I couldn't even recognize her. And I'm like, hey. And she's like, Thank you. And I'm like, who is this lady? And it was one of our people. She literally overdosed several times. And I took care of her. And she said, I don't believe that this is 100% true, but she said, because of you, I got clean. And I cried like a baby. I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. She looks so wonderful. I couldn't recognize her. She looks so different. So just being, again, kind and loving, and even if you don't know what to do, just like being a human and knowing we all make mistakes, right? So try not to pass judgment on others. And that's something that, I've always loved. And I've been very blessed that even though I tell stories of people not doing that to me, people were very, very amazing with me and my son's health team that we had, with all his diagnosis and stuff. That was like my second parent. They were like the dad because they really helped me in so many ways. So I'm very blessed and thankful for that. So, you could get through anything, but it's a journey, and it's your journey to take.
How do people find you and Inside CJ's Mind?
So, Inside CJ's Mind is on Amazon. This is my brother's face in a cartoon version. It's really, you can't miss this. This is like the only one on Amazon that kind of looks like that. But it's on Amazon. You have to put the apostrophe, which was funny because I couldn't find it. So you have to put CJ''S, or it will not find it. Or you can look up Danielle Booher. I'm on Facebook. I have a lot of names on Facebook. It's like K Danielle Booher Stroman. If you put Danielle Booher and you just Google me, it's going to show everything. You will get all my links to my websites and my podcast and all that stuff. So
I'll put it in the show notes for everyone listening. And then final thoughts.
So, this is my favorite thing. So I wrapped my podcast intro, one of them. And then so the last line of it is, don't ever give up because you got this. If you quit, think of all the opportunities that you could miss.
Thank you so much for being so open, for everything you do. Connect with Danielle, get inside CJ's mind. And until next time, everyone, always be ruthless.